Welcome to Wockonzo Wednesday, weekly. I'm your guest, your host, Sareth Ney, and every single week I bring on a producer or anyone that's in the artistic field, and I bring on a special guest. And this week, I'm bringing on one of my favorite comedians out of Daytona, and we're raising funds for the Last Laugh comedy. So that's what you'll see on the bottom. His name's Kevin Tibbert. His IG and Facebook are on there, and Twitter. And be sure to follow him on all those and donate if you can to the Last Laugh Comedy Show. They're fantastic. All right, without further ado, this is my pal Kevin. Hey, Kevin, how are you, dude?
What is going on, Sareth? You beautiful bastard. How are you?
I'm doing swell, dude. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's funny because you found my Instagram and my Twitter because those are the most inactive. So everyone out there, if you want to follow me, just do it on Facebook because I am social media impaired. But definitely donate to the Last Laugh Comedy Show because the Daytona comics all need drugs. And we're desperate times, everybody.
Indeed. Well, without I don't do the drugs because the last time we had that serial killer offering drugs, and so it kind of turned me off from that.
Nelsie Tetley. She would always walk up to the male comics, for those who don't know the story, and she would offer to smoke crack with them and offer them to have sex party. And she also murdered her boyfriend and like 2 or 3 other people. She was a sweet lady, though, as far as serial killers go.
Yeah. only in Daytona.
She would go to every fucking show, man.
Yeah, she was quite supportive. I bet she would have like a killer set.
Yeah, man. Or 5 minutes would be to die for. Hey,
waka waka. Indeed. So let's talk about your comedy career. You're part of the Punt Connoisseurs. What's the story behind the Punt Connoisseurs?
So the Punt Connoisseurs originally started as just me and Andre Dolan. So Andre's he's been on one of the other shows. He is another Daytona comic, and we fell in love, instantly became soulmates, and we went around and started touring. And it all started as an inside joke because we were coming up with names to call ourselves for just like a tour. Like it wasn't supposed to be like our group name. It was just supposed to be like one tour we were doing, and we kept going over these different ideas. It originally started as my Back from the Dead tour because that was right after I had my and I use the word tour with heavy quotation marks because really that just means I did a show in Jacksonville, Orlando, Melbourne, and here, but it counts. But that's when I had the leg infection. So it's the Back from the Dead tour, and then Andre jokingly called it the Punt Connoisseur tour. And at first I was like, man, I fucking hate that name. And then a few minutes later, a few beers later, I'm like, actually, you know what? That's right. That's who we are. We're the Punt Connoisseurs. And that's how it started. There were other members. Zoom was a temporary member of the Punt Connoisseurs, but then he disappeared. So we had to find a new third. Our new third is Sean Patrick Murphy, who, if you hadn't had the pleasure of seeing him yet on stage, for anyone listening, he's absolute psychopath. He fits right in with the group. So.
Indeed, I love the guy. I love all 3 of you.
I mean, we did the show together, me and you. We did me, you, and Andre before Sean was involved at Paper Route, where I got to headline that, and it was and stylistically, you're very similar to us because the Punt Connoisseurs is kind of known for being very subversive, dark, and gross. Of course, we can't hold anything to you because you're the master of that, but still, we try to keep up.
Man, that Paper Route show was so awesome.
That was great. It was good. Still to this day, probably my top 3 favorite shows for sure. It was definitely my best feature spot that I've ever done, for sure.
And the anniversary show was pretty awesome too. And
Aaron Eads is one of the best fucking hosts because he got these people, a room full of strangers. It was packed out, so I'd be like, I don't know, 80 to 100 people there or something like that. I'd say 80, strong 80 people, and you get them all chanting Kevin, Kevin, Kevin before I went on stage. Man, my dick was so hard. I was like a full 4.5 inches, Sareth, and I'm never a full 4.5. It was impressive. It was a good time.
Indeed. And man, that your profile photo on your Facebook page, is us on our anniversary show there.
Yeah. It's well, not you. It was your friend Wu Manchu. I was hanging out with.
Oh, that guy! I tell you, we're never at the same place.
Never at the same place. So yeah, that was the profile picture on Facebook. You'll see, and had all of our names in that fucking 2-story poster they put up there, and it was the Punt Connoisseurs and Wu Manchu.
Absolutely, pretty awesome stuff.
That was a good time.
Man, and where else in North Florida have you performed in?
I've done quite a few shows. I did a lot of shows in Jacksonville early on. So, I mean, I got to close out After Dark, which was a good time for me because that was a show that had a GIMP on it,
Yeah.
which was very exciting. Wine Bar was another one, RIP. Rain Dog's, a couple of places. And I've done shows in Orlando. I've done shows Melbourne. I do a lot of shows with Leslie Joe. Leslie Joe and I do quite a bit. One of the best shows I did with her was the Real Radio bus tour, the Volusia County bus tour. So I got to work with like Ross Pageant, Sarita Ambra, and Marcus Crespo, of course. And then I did I worked with Christy B quite a bit. So she's booked me on a lot since I won her competition first place last October.
Man, that was fun. That was at the Gentleman's Club.
That was at the strip club. Yes, it was. It was at it is now Cheetahs. It's no longer what the hell is it called? Pinups. Pinups is the name of the establishment, but it's, they're under new management, so it's Cheetahs. It's still a very dangerous and disgusting strip club, though. It is. It's very scary there, and I'm not easily intimidated by filth, but that's.
I noticed
we did the show.
Indeed, I noticed like all the strip clubs have like wild animal names, like the spearmint rhino and cheetahs.
Yeah, here we had two. We had sharkies. No, sharks, and that was the notorious for being the most disgusting of all the strip clubs. The number one, just gross, is like $10 hand job strip club. So Daytona at its finest.
Indeed, I'm hoping they open up an old like an older ladies strip club and call it Cougars.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I'm
cool with it.
We'll start that one up together.
Let's hire senior citizens.
Yeah. And you ran some rooms out there in the area. Uncle Waldo's was like was one of them.
Uncle Waldo's is my first one, which of course has a special place for you because everyone out there. Shameless plug for my friend. If you ever want to hear Sareth Ney's Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll album, it was recorded live at not Turn Up. It's on now. It was recorded live at Uncle Waldo's.
Indeed, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
So I ran that room for a year, and then we parted ways. It was just time. It wasn't like there was no negative feeling on either side. It was just we talk. I still talk to AJ about the prospect of bringing back a comedy show, and whenever the time is right, and especially when things start to get more normal, it's very likely that there will be another Uncle Waldo show. I also ran shows at House for Beer before it closed down from COVID, which was a big shame because I started that room up from nothing and it started getting really good, and COVID screwed everything up with that. And then of course there is Daddy-O's Barber Shop, which is where I go get my haircut. So if you want to look as good as me, I need to get another haircut. But yeah, Daddy-O's is a great spot. We'll shut it down after Saturday night, like when they're done closing up the shop, and they'll rearrange it to make it look like a mini comedy club. And it's a party. That's probably my most lawless and insane room that I have. It's stuff of legend.
Awesome stuff for sure.
And of course, now I have been charged with, while they're Zach and Andre and all the other people that are usually people that are running the show are currently on hiatus. So I am now the de facto ruler of the Nog. Bow before me, peasants, for I am now your god in Daytona comedy.
Indeed. I'll definitely be there next week because I got to shake off these rusty feathers.
You hear that, people? Sareth Ney, live and in person, for his farewell tour, number 937.
So many retirement parties. I feel like Kiss,
I don't care how many retirement shows you have as long as you book me for all of them. That's all I give a shit about.
Well, I'll definitely book you for my festival for sure. Because
I know, I will.
Whenever I have that Daytona takeover, I'm having you over.
Absolutely, man. It'll be a good time.
Indeed. So, for the second half of the interview, I'd like to ask you those questions that I asked you the first time around.
Please do.
And we'll see if any of your answers have changed. So, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy, Kevin?
So I've always done it. Like even when I used to do, when I was in elementary school, I had this character I created. I used to do the talent shows. I would dress up in a tux, and I would come out and say, "My name is Bond, Rubber Bond." And at 9 years old, that was the funniest joke I could have ever thought up with. So I did this Rubber Bond character on stage, of course, in like just get little kid talent shows for quite a few years. And then so something I always wanted to do. I did it in my early 20s, like 2 or 3 times, and like the last time I did it, I bombed so hard. I'm like, I'm never doing this shit again. I'm never. So started working for Texas Roadhouse. They had their 5-year. It was their 5-year anniversary of the store being open, and they had it at Bel Air Lanes. And the guy who was running the show, one of the guys running it, was Patrick Luby, who happened to be one of our prep cooks, Alec Luby's cousin. So Alec told me, he's like, yeah, man, you're funny. You should go back there and do it. And of course, I was hammered enough to agree. I blacked out. I didn't remember doing it. I got a message from Patrick Luby the next day saying, hey, you did a great job on stage last night. You should come back. And I'm like, what the fuck did I do on stage? And that's it. That's how I was reborn into comedy. I've been doing it, going on 5 years now, almost 4 or 5 years. I don't even know how long. 4 years, almost 4 years.
That's quite a long time, dude.
Yeah,
and let's see, what was it feeling like when you first performed stand-up?
I can't really remember as a kid. I remember, like, at first I was doing it, man. I think it was just because I was honestly just kind of bored. It just gave me something to do. I don't know when exactly it became, like, real serious for me. Like, but there was definitely moments. I think the first moment that I knew I was good at this and I wanted to really start getting serious is there was a particularly rowdy show at the Nog, and everyone was loud, everyone was screaming, drunk as shit. And I get on stage. They're like burying comics, like no one can talk over them. So I go on stage, and 2 minutes into my set, I pause for one of my jokes, and I hear silence, and I realize that entire room of rowdy people are stopped what they're doing, were listening to me, and I'm like, oh man, I got them. I got every single person listening to me, and that was that addicting feeling. That's the dragon you chase when you're, the master and commander of the room. You're able to run the room and make them feel whatever kind of emotions you want them to feel, which usually is laughter, but I mean shock, surprise, disgust, whatever. Especially disgust. I both know I enjoy the gross ones.
Indeed. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
I think my first album, and I'll stand to this, it's Robin Williams Live on Broadway has always been a good one. And then early on, I got into Richard Pryor at way too young of an age. So Live on Sunset Strip, where he talks about blowing himself up from freebasing, and that whole joke where I see that pretty shade of blue, I'm on fire, like that whole thing. So, and the thing is that I don't really watch too much comedy now. The only time I really will watch a special, just because I watch so much live comedy, the only time I ever sit down and watch a special is if enough of my comic friends like recommend it and like say like, hey man, you got to see how this guy does it. So like today, current comics, I would say like Tom Segura, Bill Burr, Mark Norman. Those would be some of my favorites.
Absolutely. And some of those guys have been on TV and film, and I want to know what your favorite sitcom sketches and comedy films are.
I don't know if I have a favorite sitcom. Sketch show, it's the Chappelle Show, man. Come on. Chappelle did it better than everybody. I mean, Key and Peele had a pretty good run with the sketch show, but Chappelle Show was definitely the best. And again, though, it's weird. Like I make this joke. It's like I tell people I hate comedy. I don't sit down and watch comedy. If I'm watching like TV, I watch mostly like horror movies and horror shows, or like I was big into Game of Thrones for a while when that was a thing. So comedy, I don't know.
So, and no, how about comedy films?
Super Troopers is one that comes to mind. I enjoy them. Anything like what is that group called? Broken Lizards or?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
They're good. That's about the only one I think that's come to mind. As I said, I watch mostly horror.
That's my kind of stuff right there.
Yeah. Indeed. I was very stoned when I watched it, so it was kind of a blur, but I was watching Hellraiser, I think it was Bloodlines, where he has that infamous line, do you I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
He has some good one-liners, for sure.
Pinhead was the shit.
He should be like a comedian, like Mitch Hedberg.
Would you say he would murder?
I think so.
Yeah, we did it again.
Oh, man. And then let's see here. If you can go on tour with any comedians locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
It would be the Punk Hunters, man. I mean, that's it. That's the only people that I really want to go on tour with, and bring other people around. I don't have any real, like, if someone gave me an opportunity to, like, you know, tour with any of these like famous comics or whatever, that would be great. But I don't have anyone that I would like in my head, like of a nationally touring comic that like in my head, like, oh, I want to tour with this guy. You know, I just kind of want to keep doing what I'm doing with the Punt Connoisseurs, man.
Indeed, absolutely. And if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, top 5 past or present, which ones would you like to get roasted
To get
by?
roasted by?
Yep. They can be
Bill
locals.
Bill Burr's really good at talking shit. I like that. Jack Napier in a roast, he said the best line that I've ever heard against me, which was he called me the Pillsbury Coke boy. And then for a while there, every time when people would poke my belly, I'd have to sniff. I would like to add the 2 Punt Connoisseurs as well. Love to get roasted by them just because they've been in the road together and stuff. Like, they have enough. Oh, and one more. I'm gonna stay local. I would say Paige Pazanza from Melbourne, because whenever I've hosted at Old School Pizza a couple times, they have the open heckle section on live when they do their live Facebook videos.
Yep.
And she's always pretty good. So that would be my 5. One
awesome.
Famous comic and then 4 scumbags. Indeed,
awesome lineup you got there. And where do you see your comedy career in the next 5 years?
Man, I have no idea. It's complete. I don't focus on goals, like, or like not goals. I don't focus on dreams. Like, I don't think so far ahead. This is where I want to be in 5 years. Ideally, I just focus on what can I do in the next 3 months? What can I do in the next 6 months? You know, how much money can I make? How much stage time can I get? You know, that kind of thing. And the money's only important because I want to quit my day job. So 5 years from now, I want to no longer have a day job. I would like to be a working comic who can sustain. I don't even care about if I make a lot of money. I just want to pay my bills and my bad habits through comedy.
Good call, dude. Yep. And let's see here. Which other forms of comedy would they venture off into, like improv, sketch, podcasting, comedy writing?
Comedy writing, of course. I mean, any situation, because that's my favorite part about comedy is the writing process. You know, performing, it's great, and I, you know, have an overinflated self of importance and overinflated ego, so I do love getting that reaction on stage. But I think for me, my favorite, the thing that speaks out the most to me would be voiceover work, like an adult cartoon. I would like to do that. I could do several voices, and I think I have a very distinctive voice, so I think I would be a good fit for that. So that's something I would like to pursue in the future.
Absolutely. And what is your favorite joke a comedian has ever written?
Oh God, there's a bunch of good ones. It's all local. Again, like I'm a fan of local live comedy. Support local comedy people. The first one. So when I came back, I told you I got that message from Patrick Luby after my first night doing comedy back. So I came back less drunk this time, but still pretty hammered. And I walked in. I was late to the show, and the first comic I saw was actually you doing the Winter Storm bit. And that was my first real foray back into comedy. Was you know, talking about shouldn't come out of someone's ass. And I was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna have to do now. But Jack Napier's Deaf Girl Jeopardy is probably my favorite, just because it's so vile, and it's not something he can perform in many rooms because of its content. It's really bad, and I'm just and that's what I love. I love that the most.
Awesome. I feel honored knowing that you love the Winter Storm.
I love the Winter Storm, man. The Winter Storm. That's a good one. And you having to describe felching to an audience is always one of my favorite things.
I love that too.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to dust off these old jokes and present them on next Wednesday.
Honorable mention would be Zach Bennett doing his suicide bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that if people have seen him live, have seen it, because it's one of his more used bits that I've seen him do to like kind of rile up an audience. But that's definitely it's a work of art.
Absolutely. I love how dark the comedy gets in Daytona. There's no other scene like it.
No, yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like comics will come up and say like, yeah, I heard, like I went to Melbourne and there was a new comic. He'd been doing it for 2 weeks, and he's like, yeah, I want to go to the Nog. I heard that there you can say literally whatever you want. And yes, we encourage all the awful jokes.
Absolutely. The more graphic, the better.
The more graphic, the better. Yeah, as dark and subversive as you can get. You know, it's very pretty. And the thing is too, it's not just The comics, that's what the audience likes. Like if you come up, if you try to go to the Nog on a Wednesday night and it's 11:30 and you're going up and you're trying to do 5 minutes of clean material, people will immediately stop giving a shit about you. They don't care.
Right?
They're out for blood, Sareth. They're crazy here.
Yep. Like the serial killer.
Like the fucking serial killer. Full circle. God, you're damn good interview. This is good stuff.
Indeed. And what experience would you like your audience to take with them after the set is over?
Man, I don't know. Like, so my character that I've developed, which is, I say that vaguely because I am myself on stage. I just kind of turn my negative traits all the way up. So I try to embellish the lovable scumbag kind of routine is what I go for. What do I want people to take away from it? I don't know. I've written some jokes, like I have my Bible study jokes, and I have jokes about white privilege, and I have jokes that are more relevant and thought-provoking and stuff like that, and I enjoy those the most. But unfortunately, I'm kind of known for talking about cocaine and just very awful sex stories, just stuff like that. So, and that's the bread and butter right there. So I don't really care at the end of the day if people like my material or this, that, as long as they had a good time at the show.
Indeed, most definitely. Is there a final word you'd like to share with the viewers at home?
Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead. As I said on the link there, there's a donation page for the last laugh. Follow me on Facebook, and make sure you support live and local comedy.
Absolutely. And let's see here. Like Kevin said, do all subscribe, follow everybody, donate if you can. That'd be fantastic. And that's it for Wockonzo Wednesday, weekly, I believe. And it's such a huge honor to talk to you again, Kevin, and catching up. And
always a pleasure. I'll see you next week, buddy.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. And we'll see you all next week. Have a good night.
Love you, and love all you peasants. Good night.
I love you too, bud.